Another love like a mine. Another love like mine. Someone who needs you like I do. You sure, baby? But no, I'm not bragging on myself, baby. 'Cause I'm the one who loves you, and there is no one else, and there is no one else. No.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. This is Akwesi Opong coming to you live on sunlightradio.com. Today we have another show for you, our weekly couple show. Tonight we are trying something a little bit new. We're streaming live on Facebook, just audio on Facebook, and we are so happy that you're joining us. We are also archiving this on our podcast, which can be found at www.enjoylifewithyourspouse.org. We hope you had a wonderful week. And we hope that you and your family are all doing well. Again, my name is Akwesi Opong, coming to you from sunlightradio.com. And as I said earlier, we are also streaming on Facebook, on our Facebook page, which is Enjoy Life with Your Spouse. And we are archiving this also on our podcast, which is enjoylifewithyourspouse.org. We are very excited to have you all. We're looking forward to a wonderful meeting today. We are going to talk about something very exciting. This is going to be for couples and who are dating and are getting ready to get married. So if you know anybody getting ready to get married, call them, tell them to tune in and listen, because you will take a few good lessons with you as you prepare for this wonderful occasion in your life. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will be back shortly.
When I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight.
Hello, thanks for joining us again. We are so happy to have you. This is sunlightradio.com. My name is Akwesi Opong, and today we have a wonderful message for you. We are happy our family on Facebook they're joining us today to be part of our message and lesson for today. We hope that you and your family are all well and doing great. Just to let you know, we do have a phone number. You can send us a text message only. It's 240-772-1420. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you'd like to add to the lesson in any way, you are welcome to send us a message. And we are so glad you do send us messages for us to discuss and also take into consideration. Thanks again for joining us. And as I said, today we are going to talk about how to really prepare for marriage. I think this is something very important. There are aspects of this I know the church doesn't talk about, and we are going to lay everything out tonight and get into the details of it. This is very important. If you are getting married or you know somebody who's getting married, call them, tell them to get ready. Join us online to listen to this. I'm sure there are some lessons here that is definitely going to help you. So without wasting a lot of time, let us get into our lesson for today. So, preparing to get married. This is a very, very, very important topic because as a lot of us know, most people do their best to put some effort into, the wedding and all the things that go into getting married. Picking up their clothes and how the event is going to look like and who is coming and all the details that relate to the marriage. But today I want us to look at some aspects of the preparation where a lot of people don't pay attention to. Making your marriage an important part of your life is critical. A lot of people get married and they don't see they settle in their relationship and don't see it as a critical part of their life. We have to be able to bring into prominence issues that relate to our marriage, and it's also important when you're getting ready to get into your relationship. And there are a couple of things I'm going to talk about tonight. So the first thing we're going to look at is a scriptural reference, Titus 2:4. And the reason, before I go into the scripture, the reason I want to bring it up is that there's statistics that show that couples who spend about 5 to 10 hours preparing, when I say 5 to 10 hours, it could be, meeting with your pastor, going through some kind of counseling and preparing the knowledge aspect of your preparation, getting to understand the dynamics of your how marriage life is going to be. Couples who spend 5 to 10 hours investing in some kind of mentoring or counseling, they have a higher rate of satisfaction and also a lower rate of divorce in their relationships. And this is a very easy one that I think that most people I know in the community in which I live or the community in which I grew up do invest a little bit of time into preparing. And if you or somebody you know is planning on getting married, this is the first thing I would like you to know, that you have to prepare by going through some kind of lessons or premarital counseling. So I'm going to read my scriptural verses. So it's Titus 2:4. Then they can urge the young women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God or take the word of God for granted. Similarly, that's verse 6, Titus 2:6. Encourage the young men to be self-controlled. In everything, set them an example by doing what is good. In your teachings, show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed because they have nothing bad to say about us. This is so loaded that if we listen to counsel, if we encourage the young men, if the older women encourage the younger women to love their husbands, to take care of their home, to show them integrity, if we do all these things, in the end it says that we will oppose those who oppose those who may be ashamed. They'll be ashamed because they have nothing bad to say about us. And they'll have nothing bad to say about us because there'll be nothing bad going on in our relationship, because we're taking the time to invest in mentoring and preparing for our relationship. So the first point I had made is that it's important that we invest time into some kind of preparation. Now, I want to throw out some facts here. I was reading, this is a resource from online, from the Mayo Clinic. It's a big clinic, I think, a medical institution in Arizona, in the United States. And on their website, they have some resource they put together, which the goal of it is to help with patient care and family development. And these are three things they said. They said premarital counseling helps partners improve their ability to communicate. So here the professionals are telling us that over years, their patient care and family life department have found out that investing into premarital counseling will help improve the ability of couples to communicate. So, communication is the biggest thing for most couples. There's always a breakdown in communication. They are not communicating well. As a result, it springs into other things like conflict, and all kinds of things follow. So it's important that we invest into some kind of marital counseling. The second thing the Mayo Clinic said is it sets realistic expectations for marriage and also develop conflict resolution skills. If any of you have listened to us in the past couple of weeks, I have said that 20% of the time there is going to be conflict in marriage, which is standard. If you're not having that, then something might be wrong. One person is probably not, their voice is probably not being heard. 80% of the time, everything should be fine. You should be celebrating your marriage. It's not a fixed number, but that's what researchers have found. If you invest in premarital counseling or some kind of mentoring, it helps you develop conflict resolution skills. It prepares you to ensure that when conflict comes, you have the tools to deal with it. Number 3, it also helps couples establish a positive attitude about seeking help down the road. I have said over and over that there's nothing wrong in getting help. The most successful people, the most rich people in this world, they are where they are because they are always seeking help, they are always seeking advice, they are always talking to specialists who are better than them. And it's so sad that in our society and in our communities, when somebody seeks marital help, the stigma is something is wrong. We knew it. Something was going on. But there is no shame to it because it's a sign of strength. It shows that you're investing in something that is important to you. How many of us, when you buy a new device, you sit down and you read the manual, you want to know everything about it before you open that box to see what is in it. In the same way, when you're investing into your marriage, you have to make sure that you invest in some kind of counseling or mentoring to prepare you. And this will give you a positive attitude and help you also to seek help when the day comes, because there's going to be days that you will need help with your relationship. You cannot do marriage in isolation. I've talked about this before, that marriage in isolation always spells trouble. So the Mayo Clinic they've given us a very good template why investing in some kind of premarital counseling is important. So number 1, we're still on number 1, invest in some kind of premarital counseling. It will help you get through those days when you really need it. Now, when you invest in some kind of mentoring or counseling, what are some of the things you talk about? I'm sure your pastor or your mentor will have very good resources to share with you. But, you know, I'm just going to throw out a couple of things aspects of marriage life that you should think about. You know, in addition to preparing for that wedding and, you know, buying that nice suit or the dress and flowers and inviting people, these are very important things that you have to think about, you have to talk about, know where you are, know where your spouse is, so that when you get into your marriage, it doesn't become something that weighs you down. You won't have any regrets or questions as to why you didn't know this before you got married. So the first thing is finance. You have to know where both of you are financially. This is not to say that you know, you're a lady and you met a nice young man, you know, working on his career and he's not where he's supposed to be. That has to be a deterrent. But it's just both of you opening up your finances to know how both of you are doing, you know, how much you're bringing home. It's important to talk about. It's also important to know if one or both of you have some student debt, you know, or have some loans somewhere. You know, the point here is to have transparency, so there are no surprises. So you have to get into the details of your finances. And then how you're going to make money, how you're going to support each other. Because as you know, one is leaving his father and be united to his wife, and you're going to start your life together, so you should have some form of income coming in. And I think that for most couples, it's always important to know what your spouse is doing for work. It's always important to know. You don't want any surprises after you're married to find out that, you know, God forbid, he or she is working in a place that he shouldn't be working. It might be maybe illegal place he's working. Hopefully not. Now, one thing that I want to talk about finances too is, and this is a question that my wife and I, we get a lot when we do marriage mentoring, is when we both work, should we have separate bank accounts or one bank account? It's a very, very interesting question, and I can tell you how many couples have been married for so many years and still wonder how they should approach this issue. Now, what we recommend is having one account where both of your paychecks go in, and having a separate account for each one of you where you have maybe a portion of a small percentage of your paycheck goes, so that if you want to do something for yourself, you want to buy something, or you want to surprise your spouse, you can fall on that account. Or you want to gift something to a friend. And the reason is that of having your own account is that you want to be able to celebrate your own individuality. You want to be able to also have control. But even what is important is having the joint account brings transparency. It bonds the two of you together, because you know that if anybody who's willing to open his finances to his spouse tells a lot about them. I'm not saying that is the hallmark of every relationship, but it tells a lot about how far you're willing to go. And the truth of the matter is, once you get married, there's no question of mine and yours. It becomes ours. It becomes for the two. Everything is for the two of you. So it's highly recommended that you have a single account where your entire money goes in. You sit down and plan your bills together. All right, let's move right along. The next thing is communication. You have to talk about how to communicate. You know, when you say something, you have to be clear as to what you said, and your spouse has to make sure they fully understood and heard what you were trying to communicate. Communication is key. Whenever there's a breakdown in communication, there's a lot of issues that follow. You know, like another part of communication is your ability to listen. Listening is a key part of communication. We live in a society today where we always have something to say. You know, we always want to make our point and tell the other person, you know, what we are thinking, but we fail to realize that we have to listen. And when it comes to listening, it's not just listening to the words, but listen to what is beyond the words. What's the person really trying to say? Or what is under those words? You know, if your spouse is telling you something about, work and all of that, if you listen carefully, you could tell that, maybe she's tired. And if I can help with a few things here or help with the children, she could get some rest. Listening is a key part of communication. Now, the other thing is beliefs and values. What are your values? What do you hold dear to you? What is important to you? What beliefs do you have? Even today, Christians or Christians who even within the church may have different beliefs. And it's important that you take time to talk about some of the general beliefs. You might not be able to know everything prior to your marriage, but it's very, very important that you spend some time to get into the details of what you believe, your spiritual beliefs, your worldview on marriage, your worldview on certain topics that affect us today. Even politics, you can talk about politics too. And I think politics shouldn't be an issue that can prevent or cause conflict in your relationship, even though it happens sometimes. But those are all important things that you have to talk about. The next thing is roles in marriage, the roles you are going to play in marriage. It's interesting to know that in some individuals growing up, maybe you saw your mother work and take more of a leadership role in your relationship in your home. You saw that your mother had that gift of making the home, so she did the bills and all of that. And your dad was probably somebody who was a little bit reserved. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are just reserved, and that's just the way they are. But then when you get into marriage, it's quite easy for us to bring those same expectations to our relationship, where we expect our wives to take up certain responsibilities. And it could also be that she grew up in a home where her dad took up those responsibilities. So understanding the roles, who is going to do what, who is going to cook, who's going to work, who's going to take care of the children, it's very, very important that you spend some time to go through these checklists and ask questions. What do you think about who should stay home to take care of the children? Who should pick up the children from school? Who will take the trash out? These little things are very important. You will be amazed the issues and problems it brings down the road if these roles are not identified and discussed in detail. So as we move right along, we are talking about how to prepare for marriage. And this is for all who are preparing or planning on getting married soon. It's very important that you understand some of these very important points here. And we are moving into the next. The next one is affection and sex. What sexual expectations do you have? What kind of affection do you want? How do you want to be talked to? How do you want to be your emotions to be handled? These are all important things that I think that in your dating phase, as both of you get to know each other, a lot of these will come up. But it's also important that you take it to the next level to really talk in detail about affection and sex and what do you think about it, what your expectations are, and also get to the details of what the realities are about all these topics. It's very, very important that you set these expectations right. The next thing is the desire to have children. Are you interested in having children or not? And if you're going to have children, how many children do you want? This is very important. Along the line, it might change, but it's important to start having this discussion earlier on so that there are no surprises down the road as you get ready to begin your lives together. Family relationship is another key word. How will the extended family impact your marriage? Setting expectations there, creating boundaries is very important. You have to talk about the extended family. What are we going to tell our families? What are we not going to tell them? How are we going to help our families, especially when you have to provide support to a family member? These are issues that affect relationships where, it's a couple gets into a relationship and the husband's parents move in with them. How are you going to handle that? Or even prior to that, is that something you're willing to do? And if you have to do it to help your parents, how long can you commit to that? Because you have to be aware that it's important to provide help to your family, but you don't have to do it at the detriment of your own relationship. Make sure that you talk about these things. They are very important. And I want to add this by saying that as you go through these things, it's going to bond the two of you even deeply together, because it's going to reveal more about the person you're planning on spending the rest of your life with. You're going to learn more about them, how they make decisions, how they talk about issues, and also some of the expectations they have. The next thing on the list is decision making. How do you make decisions? If you have to relocate somewhere to work, how are you going to decide? What are the things what are the things you'll be taking into consideration to make that decision? If you have to make a decision, and there's one of them that I had a couple who said this, that anytime they spend more than $50 on something they did not plan with, or they want to spend $50 on something they did not plan with, they check in with each other. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And that's a decision they made before they got married. So knowing that there's transparency, they know that, what, she wants to spend a couple of dollars, it doesn't matter. She can go ahead and do that. And, she doesn't always have to call to say, can I use this? Can I do that? You're making decisions and you check in with each other. It's always important to talk about them before you get into your relationship. The next thing is, how are you going to deal with conflict? And as I said earlier, there will be conflict. Conflict will always happen. I say conflict is good for relationship. It's what we do with it that's important. So when conflict happens, how are you going to resolve it? And these are very important things that you have to address. One of the things that I recommend is, as you go through marriage mentoring or counseling, see if your counselor could, be a mentor for you as you go through at least the first few years of your marriage. And that could be a good person to reach out to when you have a conflict and you can resolve it. Bringing a neutral person in it is always important, and somebody also who's not only neutral but have your best intentions at heart. Because sometimes issues like this, you bring your family into it, you bring some friends into it, and when you and your spouse have resolved your issues and you're moving on, they still remember you had an argument last week and your husband did this or your wife said that. And whilst both of you have gotten over it, your family members still think something is going on, So have a neutral person who can speak into your relationship when it comes to dealing with conflict. That is always a very good thing to do. So one other thing that it's worth talking about during your mentoring phase is the time you spend together. What do you want to do together as a couple? As you're getting married, we know you're looking forward to your honeymoon and it's going to be a fun time. And as scientists and researchers tell us, after about 2-year mark in your marriage, the honeymoon phase will dwindle a little bit. And it doesn't mean anything is wrong, but it means that you're settling into your relationship. And what are you going to do with your time? Even you talk about empty nesters, couples whose children grow and they leave for college or they leave home. A lot of couples find themselves in that season of life and have no idea what to do with their time. What are some of the things that you enjoy doing? I remember we spoke to a couple who said they like going to small towns to visit small towns, or taking trips. Taking trips, that's something they like doing. And it's not something you can do every day or even every week. But if it's something that you'll have to do every month, once a month, it's important that you talk about these things so that you can use it as a way of preparing as you get into your relationship. So thank you again for being with us today. My name is Akwesi Opong, and this is Couples Date Night on Sunlight Radio. We are moving along. Today we are talking about how to prepare for marriage. And as we have said, if you know anybody getting married, you can tell them to join us to learn with us. Or if you are getting married yourself, this is a great opportunity for you to learn. And just to let you know, we do have a number you can send us a text message. It's 240-772-1420. We will be right back. Thank you for joining us again. We are so happy to have you today. Again, we are here live on Facebook for the first time today. This is Couples Date Night, and we're coming to you on sunlightradio.com. We do have other shows on sunlightradio.com. We'd like you to visit and take a look. It's an African online radio station based in Washington, D.C. And we welcome you to tune in every so often and learn more about all the different things that are offered on this radio station. And as I said earlier, we do have a phone number. If you're interested in contributing or asking a question, we only take text messages. It's 240-772-1420. We will be happy to receive any questions or comments or anything that you'd like to add to our discussion tonight. And just to also let you know, we are archiving all our discussions here in a podcast. If you go to www.enjoylifewithyourspouse.com or .org, both of them will bring you to the same destination. So thanks again, and we are going to move right along. We are talking about how to prepare for marriage. If you or somebody you know is getting married, let them get this resource. It will give them something to think about and prepare. So the next thing I want to talk about, it's very controversial. You know, it's something I know the church doesn't talk a whole lot about, and I know that it's something that is going on in our society today, but you know what? I'm going to talk about it today. So, what is this thing I'm trying to get at? It's cohabitation. The question is, somebody might ask, what is cohabitation? Cohabitation is when a couple, husband and wife, meet each other, they plan on getting married, and they move in together. And they live like married couples, they behave like married couples, They do everything married couples do, but the only thing is that they are not married, legally not married. And it's a topic that, it's hard to talk about, but, I want to talk about it today because there are deep issues that has to be addressed. Firsthand, I work with married couples and I have seen what this does to couples who put all their effort into getting married and getting to cohabitation, and right after they're married, you start seeing all these issues coming up because some kind of trust was broken or the expectations they had about marriage wasn't met because of this. So let's get into some issues. We've already defined it. Some people have their own reasons to why they want to cohabitate because what they can save for their wedding, or it will help them, not spend too much on two apartments. There are so many, legitimate reasons why people do that. And it's interesting to know that 70% of Americans believe that it's okay to, stay together before married or have sex before married. It's okay, about 70%. And isn't that interesting that 70% is actually higher? It's a little bit higher, but I won't say in the ballpark. They say the divorce rate is about 50%. There's probably some truth to this. Now, what will even surprise you that this 70% includes people in the church. The church is filled of people too. I'm not putting any church down here, but the point I'm trying to make here is that this is not an issue that is outside the church. People in the church are also living together and being intimate before they get married. 59% of adults are currently, right now as we speak, are not married and are living together. If you are in that situation, this is not a reprimand on you. This is not to make you feel bad, but I'm giving you the tools you need because my heart for you is that you enjoy your marriage, because you can definitely enjoy your marriage. God created this institution for us to be in, to enjoy it. And what we're trying to get to today is that understand that these are issues that affect your relationship. 2/3 of people who move in or live together before they get married say they want to get married sometime. So they cite either their own or their partner's finance, and I think I've talked about that as the reason why they are engaged or they are dating and they've moved in together. So let's get to the details of it. Pew Research, which is a very renowned research institution the whole world over. As you say here, I'm not getting spiritual on anybody. I haven't quoted any scriptures yet. I'm talking about Pew Research. They did a research in their Journal of Marriage and Family, and they found that the premarital cohabitation affects lives on, despite what we've heard or believed. The premarital cohabitation effect is finding that those who live together prior to marriage are more likely, not less, to struggle in their marriage. I'll say it again. A research which was published in the Journal of Marriage and Family, which was done by Pew Research, which is a renowned institution for doing research. They found out that those who live together before getting married are more likely, not less, to struggle in their marriage. I'm going to tell you a story. Years ago, this is probably about 21 years ago, when my wife and I got married, I flew to Ghana for our wedding. I live in the United States, so I flew to Ghana for our wedding, and I came back. Now, when I came back, people at my work knew I had taken some time off. So one young man came up to me and said, "Hey, Akwesi, where did you go?" I said, well, he said, "Oh, I heard you got married." And I said, "Yeah." And He said, "So how was it? Tell me about it." So I started telling him the story, how we met, and how we prepared, and then he goes, "So did you move in together before getting married?" I said, "No, we don't do that. I don't believe in that, and our culture and our society won't even allow that." And I think that for in the society I grew up, and also in my personal beliefs, I think that you have to honor your wife or your wife to be by waiting to honor her by getting married and honor her family too before you move in together. And these are the words that came from his mouth. He said, "I got it cheap." That's exactly what he said. "I got it cheap," because he and his wife now moved in together right after high school, and they lived together, and at some point got married. And I don't mean to put anybody down, but for working with him some time, I heard some stories, and I knew exactly what was going on. Let's just leave it at that. You know, the point here is that it deflates that expectation you have for marriage. You know, marriage is a thing that we all mentally prepare. We have the anticipation. We look forward to it. It's something that we hope to get to at some point in our lives. When we move in together, we deflate that expectation. And also we don't, when we don't go through the process we have to go through, what happens is that the trust is broken, because the woman feels that the man didn't go through the right channels set in society to honor her in order to get married, and also people who are moving together don't go through marriage preparation. They don't. As we talked about, look at the list of things we talked about, the things you have to think about, plan, work on before you get married. People who moving together do not go through this, and as a result, they are faced with all the problems and issues that come through marriage. So it's always important that we do this. So I want to lay this out there. I'm making it, letting you know that research makes it clear that if you start making love before marriage, if you move in together before marriage, it creates a lot of trust issues. It reduces the satisfaction of your marriage, and it's not where you want to be, because both of you know somewhere in your conscience that you have to prepare. Now let me throw this out there. This past year with the virus going around all over the world, it's made it very difficult for people to get married. And in my own church, I've seen couples who've come to us and say, "Look, a big wedding is not what is going to make our marriage. We want to get married right away so that we can celebrate our bodies, we can move in together." And the church put something together quickly. One of them even had a wedding on Zoom, and it was beautiful. They got married and moved in together. They, began their lives together. They had finished their marriage counseling, and they were not going to wait for the pandemic to pass before they had their wedding. If you think it's going to be a problem, plan and get married early. Marry early, get it done with, and be able to move in and celebrate. And don't let money be an issue. Do not let money be an issue why you are not able to do that. Set yourself up to succeed. Set yourself up to be successful, so that you can reap the rewards of a very successful marriage. So that's a word to you all. I'm sure that I made my point, and you will take it to heart. So the next point I want to talk about is modeling. This is a very, very important one. Marriage has to be modeled. How does marriage really look like? You have to have people who model marriage. How did your parents model marriage to you? What did you see in your own home growing up? If for some reason you did not have that growing up, it's always important to have some couples within your church or your community you admire, and spend time with them and model, learn, watch them do it, watch them talk about it, ask them questions. This is when I recommend to a lot of couples that it's important that you find a group, if it's within your church or your community, a group of young couples just like you who are preparing to get married, or those who have some experience, and spend time with them, maybe once a month, and talk about issues. We do that, and we always have some resource that we listen to and we discuss. And now, if you go on YouTube, you type anything from Opinion Kwajuchere to what's his name, Gary Chapman, or Focus on the Family, or Gary Thomas, or Pastor Evans, what's his name? Tony Evans, I think is his name. But you'll find so many resources that you can listen and discuss. And that provides some form of modeling for you. Modeling is you watching somebody doing it, and you also know the things to do. So modeling is very, very important as you prepare to get into your relationship. At this point, I'm going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Darling, just dive right in, follow my lead. Well, I found a girl, beautiful and sweet. Well, I never knew you were the someone waiting for me. 'Cause we were just kids when we fell in love, not knowing what it was. I will not give you up this time. Darling, just kiss me slow. Your heart is all I own, and in your eyes you're holding mine. Baby, I'm dancing in the dark, you between my arms, barefoot on the grass, listening to our favorite song. When you said you looked a mess, I whispered underneath my breath, but you heard it, darling. You look perfect tonight. Well, I found a woman stronger than anyone I know. She shares my dreams. I hope that someday I'll share her home. I found a love to carry more than just my secrets, to carry love, to carry children of our own. We are still kids, but we're so in love, fighting against all odds. I know we'll be alright this time. Darling, just hold my hand. Think my girl, I'll be your man. I see my future in your eyes.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. This is Couples Date Night on Sunlight Radio, and today we are live on Facebook, and also we are archiving this on our website, which is www.enjoylifewithyourspouse.com. Thank you so much. We are talking today about how to really prepare for marriage, and I know that we all have various things that we did or are doing to prepare for marriage, but we do have some other views that we'd like you to learn as we go along. As you know, we do have a phone number. It's 240-772-1420. It's a text-only number. We only accept text messages. You can call and leave a message, but it will not be live, so we strongly recommend that you text us if you are able to. Now, before we complete the other points we have about preparing for marriage, last week we had a wonderful caller when we talked about emotion, not neglecting the emotions, emotional neglect in your marriage. We had a wonderful caller who had contacted us and we couldn't read her message, so we're going to do that right now. So her name is Mildred, and she says, I was listening to your message today, and she wanted to make a point. And she once said, I agree, and just want to add a few of my contributions. He said, you said we should make an effort to understand our spouse's emotional life so that it reminds her so much of a book she read by Dr. Gary Chapman. I think, yes, she's referring to Dr. Gary Chapman's book she tried, which talks about love languages for couples. And those 5 love languages, whichever one pertains to you. And she goes on to say, he mentioned in the book where the words of affirmation access as an important part of receiving quality time and also physical touch. So she realizes that you need to know when we have to take time to understand the emotional needs of our spouse. So she goes on to say that that we can compare our emotional lives when we understand our love languages. So she's making a comparison between our love languages and also being able to understand our emotions. So she concludes by saying, I believe that it is a great way and a great tool to use in order to cater to your spouse's emotional life. Also, I believe that you made a very good observation on when the emotional language of our spouse has changed. So she goes on to talk about when, sometimes the emotions change and we have to understand when they change and respond to it. Thank you so much for your contributions, Mildred. We really appreciate that. We hope that you can join us again sometime whilst we have a live show and give us more of your contribution. So at this point, I want to conclude our discussion for today. We are almost at the end, and I have 2 more things to talk about. So the next thing you have to do when you're preparing for a marriage is plan your honeymoon. And I can't say this enough. And when I say plan your honeymoon, I know a lot of people will think about the money they have to spend. But there's something I have observed over the years, that when couples get married and they don't make time to go away for honeymoon, it has a negative effect on the marriage. I have not done any research on this, but this is just by pure observation. Make time right after your wedding. The 2 of you, even if you do not have money to go away, stay at home for 1 week, just the 2 of you. Don't go to work, just the 2 of you. Spend a week at home, take day trips, go out to eat, take walks, whatever you do. Make that time for your honeymoon. I cannot say this enough. I've just made this observation that couples who get married and just slide straight into life right after their wedding start having issues because they never celebrated their marriage. They never made that time. In biblical times, when somebody got married, a man got married, they wouldn't even let him go for war. When there's a recruitment to go and fight, they make him stay home to be with his wife. It looks like they had 1-year honeymoons. I don't know, but it's something that happened in biblical times. So make time for your honeymoon, even if it's 3 days or how long you have it. But make sure money shouldn't be an issue. And when I say that, if both of you have somewhere you're going to stay after you get married, stay at home and have your honeymoon there. There's so many lovely things you can do together. There's so many things you can talk about, and all the anticipation you've had about getting married. Yes, now you're married, you're home, and you can celebrate yourselves. You can enjoy yourselves together, but make sure you plan your honeymoon and make sure that something happens like a honeymoon, because it really helps both of you begin the relationship on a very good note. Now, finally, the last thing I want to add is that it's important. It's important. I'm saying this not because it's the bottom of the list, but I want you to remember this the most, that spend time to pray and seek spiritual guidance as you go into your relationship. This I can say enough. You can say that I'm saying this because I'm a Christian, I'm born again, but even researchers have found that people who add spirituality to their relationships, they do better. They are more happier, they are more fulfilled, they have less conflict, less arguments at home. Spirituality is very, very important. That as you go into your marriage, work on your spirituality, talk about how we already talked about faith as one of the things you should discuss, but make sure that you invest time into your relationship, to your spirituality as you get into your relationship, and let it be one of the things that you talk about. One of the most popular scriptures that I like is Matthew 6:33. It says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." If we seek him first, all the things that we're looking for will be added unto us. Spirituality is a key part. And I can't say this enough. A couple of years ago, the pastor of my church showed us a triangle. And as he described it, the top of it is where God resides, and the bottom two corners was you and your spouse. And he explained it that as both of you move up to the point where God is, guess what happens? Both of you move closer. So the only third person in your marriage is God, your relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And I want to emphasize this, that it is very, very important that we make time to invest in spirituality and prayer and seeking God in our relationship as we prepare for our marriage. And I'm sure that as we think about these things, it's going to help us really prepare for the life of love that we are getting ready to celebrate. I wish you all the best if you're getting married. I wish you God's peace and blessing and all the joy in marriage, because indeed it is a wonderful life to be married. That's the name of our ministry is Enjoy Life with Your Spouse. But it is a scripture. It is a scripture, and the actual scripture in Ecclesiastes 11:9 says, "Enjoy life with your wife." So, it's almost like a command that we're expected to enjoy our relationships. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to have you. We hope that you have a wonderful weekend coming up, and also a wonderful marriage or wedding if you're planning one. And we hope to see you all here again next week. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and God bless you all. Radio.